way you know, I have a friend named Jo Ann Cunningham. We've known each other for 100 years, but one of the things that I never did was to ask her all the things that she has done. And I said, would you please do this video with me so that I can find out all of the stuff, because I knew she did some things. And she just brought in this pile of goodies that she did. And I'm going to, first of all, you got the wonderful thing where he did not say your name correctly. Tell that story. It's an amazing story. About
Hirschfeld. It was a bunch of people in the summer that I did a tour with Robert Goulet of Carousel.
Was that what they were doing?
That's what that was.
Oh.
Yeah. And it called me Ann Cunningham. Sort of a foreboding of my future career. Never quite right. Anyway, my dear friend, whose name was Edward Sager, sent me a little note and said, "Dear Ann, it was wonderful to see you in the paper. Love, Ward. Give my love to Ian. My son's name is Brian." So he did the second half of all of our names. It was very funny and very amusing, and I love him dearly, but I wish they had called me Jo Ann.
Isn't that, it always happens, things like that. But what was Robert Goulet like?
Oh, he was having a hard time at that time. But I have to say that baritone sound on those Billy Bigelow songs was just gorgeous. It was just beautiful.
If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way.
That show was supposed to come in, but he had so much trouble that one by one, every producer backed out. It was one of those, he is gone. But he should have been like our top musical comedy star, I think, at the time. This was the 80s.
Mm-hmm. When did you do Dolly?
I did Dolly after that, maybe at the beginning of this century.
And you played Dolly.
I played Dolly. And I always wanted to do it again because I'm always better the second time. You know, after you've done it and you've gone through everything and you know what you should do and what works and what you shouldn't do, then if you get a chance to do it again. It's an amazing
role. Amazing role.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
I can imagine. Did you do all of that? What was choreographed like around the orchestra on the...
A Passerelle? No, we didn't have that. This was a small theater. The Lyceum in Arrow Rock.
Oh, there was a Lyceum there.
Arrow Rock Playhouse.
Where's Arrow Rock?
Arrow Rock.
Where's Arrow Rock?
I can't speak. Somewhere in the South.
That's what's so incredible. When you have a career, you know, and you suddenly somebody says, "Now, where was that?" And I think, where did I actually play that role? It's like when I did in Alaska, and then I did it also in Seattle, and so I was thinking, now, where was I? What are they talking about? Because, which was one of your favorite? You said that one of your favorite.
Oh, when I was working with Goulet, because he was not in great shape, I did a lot of press. And the one question that I kept being asked was, what was your favorite role? So I had to really sit down and think about it. And I finally decided it was Irene Malloy in The Matchmaker.
Oh, it's such a wonderful play.
It's a beautiful play. And then I came home and read all of Thornton Wilder that I could get my hands on.
Oh.
I just devoured him because I loved him. He was so full of hope for the world, you know. And so
except for what was that wonderful one that he did where
It's Always There. I just think he
was wonderful. There was no question about that. Now, you told me a very funny story about when you were selling an industrial. I think one of the things about industrial that was so great for all of us was you did an industrial for selling this or selling that, dancing and singing and everything else, and you got paid a great deal of money. Now, that was until Equity got involved, and then Equity cut it way, way down because there was that fabulous industrial that was done in the morning before breakfast. I forget the name of it. And everybody, all of the dancers and singers were used, and they were paid a great deal of money. Now, what was the one that you did that you sang the little song with the two guys?
Oh, Seeing the Light. That's on YouTube, folks. You can find that if you...
What is it?
It's called, I believe it was called Seeing the Light. And it was a live industrial, and I have no idea when they filmed it.
Your tank was dry, convenience was tempting, but the price you paid was high. Seeing the light.
Oh, seeing the light. Please use less. Save energy.
And it was this big show about saving energy.
Oh,
That many years ago. That was in the 90s.
and what was the song? The song was kind of fun.
Seeing the light, seeing the light. I can't remember. I can't remember what the words were.
You said it was very funny. I mean,
Well, it was. It was funny when you think about what we were singing about. Oh, you could have used more. You could have saved less. I forget it, but it seemed like a love song, except it was about electricity.
so amazing. And you imagine that the people who composed it and the people who did the lyrics and everything, they were really good people.
Sure, I don't know who they were in that case. I just had to learn it and did it, but I still don't know when they filmed it. It had to have been a rehearsal. I had no makeup on.
You had no makeup on.
No. And, well, the boys didn't wear it, but I did.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. But that was fun. And it was the industrials, for those who do not know, that kept us going between shows and commercials, too.
Well, you
Okay.
probably did a lot more commercials than I did.
I didn't do a whole lot, but I did do some, and it was always great. But I was usually playing, I wasn't a housewife. I did the one commercial was for American Bakeries, and it went all around the country.
Ooh,
and it's the one I made the most money on. But every place else, I was a lawyer, or I was an executive, or something like that. But not a cute little housewife. I was eating a sandwich in that one.
It's so incredible. Oh gosh,
But they keep us going.
the commercials and the industrials and everything. I just didn't do any industrials. I did commercials now and again, but I was considered ethnic. Now, if you hear, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you hear a strange moaning sound, it's my dog who is moaningly sleeping next to me, and that's what happens whenever we shoot something. She either walks through, or she snores, or she moans. So it's not either one
It's
of
not
us.
me.
It's very funny. Oh,
Yeah.
but I never did. As I was saying, I never did industrials, but I did do commercials, and I think it was amazing when you'd go down to your mailbox. And you'd open it and you'd say, oh, well, look at this. And they were a lot of money.
I know the residuals were great, and who was the person who wanted to take away the residuals from us? Mr. Ronald Reagan.
No kidding.
Yes, ma'am. That's why a lot of people don't like him.
He wanted to take them?
Yeah, he didn't think that we needed them. But that's the truth. And it's an unfortunate truth.
It is.
And I don't know why he would do that. Well, people with a lot of money don't understand people without a lot of money.
Especially a person like that.
From the business. Yeah.
Like that. Now tell me some of the other goodies that you did that you really liked doing. You sang a lot.
Yes. I think I didn't start out that way, but I ended up being mostly a singer. But I should start with my first Equity job, which everybody should know, was at the Pittsburgh Playhouse.
Oh.
and I was called a journeyman actor at the whopping salary of $65 a week.
Woo!
And then, that was fun though. Then I went to summer stock, and I was making $110 a week. That was that summer. And then my husband, who was there, somebody got sick and they put him in the company.
Who?
Dennis Cunningham.
Dennis did it? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
And he was making $110 a week, and we thought we were in the chips. We thought we had so much money. And that was...
Well, it was so different because I
It was like
remember
1967. That's how far back that was.
67. Because I remember there was a show. No, it was a season, and I was asked to do the season in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, and they said that they were going to pay me, and I said, and I remember I was eating dinner with my father and my mother family, and I said, I came to the table and I said they weren't paying me enough. I told them I needed $150 a week, and Dad said, "What did you tell? How you can't tell somebody?" I said, "Of course you can tell them. You'll get the money and I got that money.
Good for you.
$150 a week. It was really, I deserved thousands of dollars because I had to work with some interesting people. But how many stock did you do? A lot of stock, right?
I worked almost every summer. That was at Jennerstown, and that was 1 week stock, and it was like a 20-week season. And by the middle of it, you were bleary-eyed because you were doing a show at night and rehearsing another show in the morning, and they only lasted a week. So you can imagine what they were like. And you would look at somebody on stage and think,
what is that?
he has no idea what he's going to say to me. and you just sort of did it. You know,
I had to create this mixture of something with a guy who didn't learn any of his lines about the mixture. I'm sitting there, and I think he was drunk, and I'm on the stage with him. I remember in my stomach, I thought I was going to die because of this cuckoo nut guy that I was working with. Nobody bothered about it, it just Jennerstown. But we did some fun things. I mean, some good. We did Mary Mary, and that worked out very well. It was just when you put in somebody who was a drunk, it made it very difficult.
I can imagine. It was at Jennerstown that I did, and I told you that story, where I had to tap dance.
You had to tap dance?
Bernadette Peters, I think it was her first big show in New York. Oh, however, here's the story. I played Mona Kent. What was the show?
Oh, 42nd Street.
No.
No?
Mm-mm. I did that too, but that's a different name. No. And the role was done by Tamara Long in New York, and she was coming out to direct it. And it was a big tap show. And I thought, God, I can't tap dance. What am I going to do? So I called my friend Gene Williams, who had been the choreographer in Philadelphia of the LaSalle College Music Theater, which I think is now gone, so you probably never saw it. Anyway, and she was the only person that I thought could ever put any kind of tap dance on me. And she taught me a time step, which I can still do, a double time step, which I cannot still do, and a couple of trick things and a flat ball change and a few basic things. So I was terrified because Tamara Long was a wonderful, wonderful dancer. I was a wonderful, wonderful singer. But anyhow, Tamara said, you swing your arms and you smile and it'll be great. I said, okay, I'll do that. And she choreographed stuff, and I did do some steps, but it was mostly this flat ball changing clear around the stage. And I got a review that said, not much of a singer, but boy, could she dance. I thought, thought, oops.
Isn't that wonderful?
It's a wonderful story.
It is a terrific story.
Because to this day, I'm not a dancer. However, did you ever know a man named Ron Young?
Oh, sure.
Oh, well, Ron Young made me look like a dancer. We did a little 4-person show called Oh Me Oh My Oh Humans off Broadway that was running, and it was a delightful piece, and the producer wanted it on Broadway, which is where it didn't belong. But anyway, Ron said he spent his life guiding around leading ladies, but I trusted him probably more than I've trusted any man in my entire life.
Remember that,
that's
ladies.
an admission I maybe shouldn't have made. But he would just touch me in my back, and we'd move wherever we had to go, or he'd whisper in my ear, and it was the most wonderful feeling, because it was very 30ish, and I had this wonderful bias cut gown on, and he just danced me around that stage, and it was the most dancey I ever felt in my entire life. I loved it.
Oh, isn't that funny? It's so incredible. You've done a lot of that stuff, because I can't imagine, well, of course I was never, the only musicals I did were mostly ones where either I was being, like Man of La Mancha or the Stop the World, I Want to Get Off or something like that, where there was no dancing. There was just, they put the wrong side of the stage up for Man of La Mancha.
Ooh.
So that you'd stand in the back of the stage and you're going forward, and so they said, we put Coke all over the whole stage. They put Coke
so
on,
would stick.
so that you'd stick, and you'd heard as we walked around.
Nothing like that kind of a distraction.
It was very funny, but I mean the muleteers were unbelievable, but I didn't have to do that kind of thing that you did. And in a way, I think of the fact that they say that there were singers and then actors who sang.
Well, there were singers who danced and dancers who sang, but nobody then had to do everything, which is what the kids have to do today. And they're so talented.
Oh, amazing.
So many of the young people today, because they do it all, and they do it all well. I did not flash dance, but Footloose up in the Great Lakes, and I would quickly change my clothes and stand in the wings and watch those kids dance. They came from NYU and from Ithaca, and a couple of people there were from Syracuse, so that they were the ensemble, and God, were they good. And I loved it. I just loved watching them. And they did it all. There was one girl, you never know who's going to be a star and who's not. There was one girl who was so good, and she had something very special. I call it the watchability. It's somebody that you just always want to watch on stage, and that's how she was. And I was sure she was going to really kind of take off, but she didn't. She's working all the time, which is good, but it's not the height that I thought she was going to get to.
So
and that's
interesting.
too bad.
You wonder about that.
Well, what makes one person do it and another not quite? But I also discovered that there's a lot of talent all over the place, and that's kind of fun too.
It's rather remarkable about what you said about who makes it and who does not.
Yeah.
I think it's like a magic something. I think I told you the story about Alvin Epstein. And I shouldn't be talking because this is really her thing, but it's the most amazing story, and it proves to what I'm saying. Alvin, when he was in Paris and everything during the war, he studied with Etienne Descroux, and he knew Marcel Marceau and things like that. And when he came back to the United States, he said to his father, I'm going to be an actor. And his father said, fine, go ahead and do what you have to do. So Alvin said, okay. And he got tickets because he knew Marcel Marceau was coming to town. Mm-hmm. And he got tickets for that for the whole family. And he went down to another audition first before he was going to go to this, to pick up his family and everything. And they said, well, we've already cast this whole thing. And but you can be a spear carrier for $25 a week. And he said, let me let you know tomorrow. You know, he just said he would think about it and let him know tomorrow. Fine. So then he goes to the theater. The producer of the Marcel Marceau thing said, "Where have you been?" And he said, "What do you mean, where have I been?" He said, "The guy from Canada was not allowed to come across. You're on."
Ooh.
He was on with Marcel Marceau, knowing exactly what he had to do because he'd done it before. And he did that for a 200 and something a week. And then he went on and he played the fool with Orson Welles. I mean, he went from one thing to the next because it was supposed to happen.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
I
Maybe
believe
the
that.
fates are in charge.
Sometimes they
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
because they're people who you say, "How did that happen?"
Oh, yeah.
You remember Paul
Yes.
Trueblood, who I adore. Paul Trueblood was the pianist for most of us. And he said there's one Hollywood actor that went to school with him. He said everybody used to make jokes about him. He was like the worst thing in the world. He's a huge star in Hollywood. I won't tell you who he is, but
You have to tell me afterward.
afterwards, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he said it was like, how did that happen? But you kind of, if you're related, if you have somebody that's pushing you, if you have parents, I don't know. I just, it's hard.
You get a little star on your head and it just sort of takes you there.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are I talked too long here, and now it's Jo Ann's dead. Now I want to ask you, when you were married and you had your little son, were you able to do two things at the same time?
It was very difficult. And there were a lot of very tough years because we soon were separated. But when Brian, my son, was born, my husband was going to Paris to work on his PhD, which was on Jacques Capot and the Vieux Colombier, which had been in the United States in 1919. This is a French theater troupe. He was meeting Helene d'Aste, who was a woman of the theater and Capot's daughter. So he was going to Paris, and I was having milk problems with my child, and the doctor said, "Don't go to Europe." So I had an offer to go out to Minneapolis and do a show out there. And I went with this 3-month-old baby.
Oh my God! Oh my
1,200 miles from anybody I knew, and went to work. And I said to the director of the theater, it was Chanhassen Theater, and Gary Gisselman was the director, and I said, "Gary, there's got to be somebody who will take, boarders, like a mother and a baby." And he found me this woman named Ginny Bowman, whom I loved more than my mother. She was just wonderful. And we lived with her, and I was out there for at least half of the year for the next 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, I worked out there and I loved it with Brian. Oh, and this will kill young mothers if there are any young mothers watching or anybody who's involved in this. I finally found a daycare person. We found one who was a drive away, but she was right down the street from me, and her name was Marie Sabaka, and she had 5 kids in a huge yard, and I would take him down on matinee days. And all the kids would run and say, "Oh, the baby's coming, the baby's coming, the baby's coming." And Marie Sabaka apologetically charged $4 a day for childcare, when now people can't afford it at all. Oh, they can afford it, but it takes a big bite out of their income. But I had that, and she was great, and Brian always liked going there because all these kids were paying attention to him. And then I always put him to bed early at night so that I could put him to bed.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's how that worked. Then when we came to New York, it was a whole other story because he was going to school. It was a whole new place. We were still married, but that didn't last too long, and we were soon, he was in 2nd grade when we came here, we were soon separated officially. And I took him on a tour. It was one of the last really wonderfully long summer tours of Carlton Davis, and it was Carousel with John Reid.
If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go.
Oh.
So I did it with John Reid, and I did it with Robert Goulet. And Brian was with us, so they put him in the show as the youngest Snow child, and they called him "Oh No, Snow." But that was a wonderful
How old was
summer.
he?
He was 8.
Did he like playing then?
He did something very interesting. He was a very shy kid, and he had one line, and it was at the graduation scene, and he had to point and say, "That's my brother." And he would point and say, "That's my brother," just like that. Well, John's granddaughter, Ruby Raitt, came. Ruby Raitt was a hellion. She was out there. And she had a line too, and she yelled it out loud and clear. And my kid, unbeknownst to me, went to the man who played Mr. Snow and said, "How do you say 'that's my brother' with a British, with a New England accent?"
Oh, he said that. The
He
kid
said that.
said that.
He said that. And that night, Ruby Raitt said her line, and when Brian got to say his line, he went, "That's my brother!" And I thought, oh my goodness, you never know how resourceful your kids are until you see them do something like that, So that was amazing. But that was a good thing for him. And he left a week early to be with his dad for a week. And they gave him a great big party send-off.
Isn't that?
It was a wonderful summer. We all had a great time. We had almost no pictures inside a theater. We were on beaches or in mountains or on a roller coaster or something.
Right.
It was wonderful. It was a wonderful summer.
Yeah, that's so great when you can take the kids and they have a good time.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me, I mean, if the kid is not happy there.
No, well, he was okay. I mean, he enjoyed it. And then during the year when he was in school and it was problematic and I was working and he would be with me on weekends, I'd pick him up after school. And it was always him and a couple of his friends, and they had all their lacrosse gear with them. And they'd come and watch the show and sit in the first row with all this stuff all around. But at least they were there and he was with me, and nobody ever complained. I used to always take them every year for 3 years straight. I did this. After one show, I would take them to the show so they would be awake, to take them to the blowing up the balloons on Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow, that's something.
And in those days, in the 80s, it was, isn't this awful? I'm talking about the 80s. It's like forever ago. It's like it didn't exist. But it was not the mob scene that it is today. Mm-hmm. You could actually get there and see them. So I would take these 3 kids, and by the time I got back to the city, I had 3 sleeping boys in the back seat,
Now, who were the other 2?
They were his friends.
Oh,
his pals would come. Yeah.
That is so funny.
Yeah. So life in the theater with a kid is stuff like that.
I just think of Margie with that girl. Because, she had the girl, and she took her all over the place.
She took her to Europe.
1 second. Bipta, stop talking, stop. God, this dog is really, she making so much noise. I hope you're not going to be hearing that. But yeah, she took her to Europe. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to go to Europe at all.
Not until he was grown up. I did a European tour. It was great. I just couldn't wait to get off the bus and hit the cobblestones and explore Europe.
Uh-huh.
It was great.
Was he there?
No.
No.
I was by myself then.
Oh, yeah.
He was grown.
And
So
he's working in the business.
He's an editor at CBS. And he has an Emmy and a Peabody. And,
my goodness. Well,
and some other things, but no money.
well.
You know, well, Violet, who of course this is my granddaughter, who's like the best thing in my life. You know Violet.
Of course I know.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell the person who is shooting us. Violet is adopted, the most gorgeous girl of color. And when she was a little girl, Jo Ann would put her down the street in a baby carriage. This lady with a little black
And all the nannies were very curious about that.
Yes, but she's the most beautiful girl and has the most gorgeous skin I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's shines. It's kind of a shiny black. It's very beautiful.
She's Ethiopian.
Oh, is that what it is? I see, because she's so beautiful. Anyway, and she always is with a girl.
She always has a girlfriend. Well, when they get a certain age, that's what you need. You need other kids that they can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
And what school does she go to?
She goes to Trinity.
Oh my
and
God.
She's, that's why they have no money.
Uh-huh.
and she's a sophomore.
Oh, so she has another year before she starts, before college.
Yes.
I don't know how you do that, how they do that, how anybody does that.
These days, I know it's so expensive.
Oh, it's terrible. But
Anyway.
back to you. Now, you said you were going this way and going that way and doing this with this person. What shows were you doing? Were they all musicals?
Mm-hmm. By that time, they were. The last show that I did, the last big tour I did was Flashdance. That was a lot of fun. And
Was that the one about the girl in the mountain, going to the mountains? Or is that a different one?
that's a different one.
Okay.
Flashdance is this girl who wanted to be a dancer who was a flash dancer.
Oh.
And I played not one of the flash dancers, but the old lady in the show. Of course, but it was nice and it was fun. And I had good scenes. I had scenes that
Were really
pushed
written?
her. Yeah, my scenes were nicely written.
Who did you do it with?
Nobody that, well, Sergio Trujillo was the director.
Mm-hmm.
He has since gotten a Tony for choreographing something. I don't even know what it was, but he was the name. Nobody really had a name in that show.
You know,
Oh, here's Bipta.
yeah, this Bipta is wanting to get attention. This is why in the middle of your thing, she's going to come up. Now,
That's okay.
she is. So, you did Flashdance, and I know that I remember you calling me about Flashdance, and there was something about Flashdance that you told me about.
I might have told you about Into the Woods when I did the National. And Cleo Laine was the star, and that company carried 6 people who were just covers.
Uh-huh.
And we rehearsed, we did the show for 6 weeks in Florida, and the only scene we had rehearsed was the opening number. And then we were going to LA, and one night in LA for the big opening, Cleo said to the woman who they carried, I covered Cleo, and everybody was double covered too. And then they made me cover Jack's mother, and I said, I don't want to cover Jack's mother. I am not a Jack's mother. But they made me do it. They said, we have to have a cover. Well, I insisted then. I said, the thing about doing it is you have to learn it, which means you have to go to an understudy rehearsal every week.
Oh, yeah.
To learn it, and you have to know it. And then
You have to know at the moment that they give you the script.
That's right. That's right. But then the girl who was who carried and covered, who they carried, who was not in the show, did a lot of Jack's mother. And I finally said, this isn't fair, because I had to learn it. You made me learn it. At least let me go on and do it. Because it was a matter of money, because she got extra money. Her salary plus you get extra money every time you go on.
Yeah.
So they let me go on, and everybody was in the wings. And I had to play it kind of like a tall olive oil, like a tall, skinny person instead of a kind of a very different kind of chubby, shorter person who had been doing it. But anyhow, we got through that. That's not the story. The story is when I had to go on for Cleo. When Cleo came to this other woman and said, you'll probably have to do this tomorrow. And I just went home and then got the call the next morning. And I thought, oh my God, I have to do this. Well, when you're on the road, when somebody goes on, it's a big domino effect, because then somebody had to replace me, then somebody had to replace that person.
God.
And so it was a nightmare. And there was a person with the script who followed me around off stage in case I went up. I had no trouble because I learned it.
Yeah.
Because you
have to learn it right away.
But nothing had been rehearsed except that opening scene. So anyway, at the end of the night, there were 5 of us in the lobby of the theater. We were all just totally wiped out from this extraordinary experience of having been thrown into this at the last minute. And Alan Kosher, who was our company manager, ran by and he said, hey, Jo Ann, you were great. And there were no refunds.
Oh.
Which is the bottom line.
For them.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Let's face it. So at that point I left. But we all did go out and have a drink. And oh boy, did I sleep the next day. But that was a moment never to be forgotten. And there were no refunds. Because that's
But there's
what it's
also
all about.
something not to be forgotten. I'll never forget that when I was standing by for Claire Bloom, and Mitch Erickson said to me, do you know the script? I had been given the script a little, before, way before.
Yeah.
And we were going to Boston. And I said, well, no, I don't know the whole thing. He said, you better know the whole thing by the first night.
Right.
Because if something happens, you're supposed to go on. And that was an old thing of Margie always, that once you are an understudy, you have to know it the moment the script comes into your hand.
Right.
And it's amazing what happens to people who don't. It's just horrible.
Well, it would be terrifying.
Absolutely. Just awful. I mean, I have been called, I was called, I had done something called 90 Day Mistress, I think. And I get a call one Sunday from the writer. He said, listen, Catherine, the girl who was playing the part that you were playing was in an automobile accident. Can you go out? And this was about 1.5 years after I'd done it. Can you go out and replace her today?
Oh.
I said, just bring me the script so I can learn it on the plane. And it was in Washington during cherry blossom time.
Oh.
We get to the airplane. I get out, they get in the car to drive, and it's cherry blossom time, and this traffic is like this. And I'm thinking, holy crap, what are we going to do? And there's the songs the kids sing before the show. And we get there for that, and I didn't know what the stage looked like. They said, the light switch is over there. I have to turn the light switch off at one point. I said, where? On that side of the... It was really something. And anyway, those kind of things happen in this business.
Well, I took over for a girl in the Goulet Carousel, and also never really had a rehearsal on stage. And I remember it was Indianapolis, whatever that outdoor theater is.
I remember
there.
that theater, and very hot.
Oh, I have a story about that too. Anyway, it was hot. But I went out before the show and I just walked around on the stage to remind myself where I had to be, and it was scary, but that all worked out fine. But when we were in Indianapolis, the Indianapolis State Fair was there. And one day, a bunch of us were going to the fair. And when we came home, the local crew guys wanted to know what we had done all day. And we said we went to the fair, and everybody talked about what they did. And I said, and I stood in line with all the other 3 and 4 year olds because I wanted to milk a cow.
Oh no, I can't believe this.
I did. And the one guy said, I said, I just couldn't wait to get my hands on those udders. And this one crew guy said, now you know how we feel. And I did have to laugh. And I just remembered that, you know, from you mentioning that.
We have to tell that about Alice, about you building a cow, because Alice came.
Oh, she came from a farm.
Yes.
Yeah.
She didn't know that you wanted to feel what it felt like to milk the
Well,
cow.
I did. And there's a technique to it.
It's very hard. It's very hard to do.
Well, yeah, you have to.
Pull it down.
Yes. Learn how to. Anyway, that was one wonderful memory from that tour. There were a lot of good things that happened on that tour, but it was fraught with anxiety.
Oh, you know, I think I stopped wanting to go out of town.
Oh, I love it. I would travel anywhere at any time. Oh, I love it.
Really?
Yep. I love going to new places, and every place has something to offer. Everywhere. Brian was with me. I was in Flint, Michigan. He was with me. I don't even remember what that was. He wasn't in the show, but he met the sheriff of the town, and they kind of looked after him. They took him places during the day and gave him a big cowboy hat.
Kidding,
you know?
That's great.
Yes.
That was so nice.
And in a place that you'd hardly expect anything to be going on.
You know, I worked in Alaska. Did you ever work there?
Oh, yes, I did.
You did?
Yep. I spent a week in Valdez, Alaska, home to the infamous Valdez oil spill. And the reason I was there was because a little community college called the Prince William Sound Community College every year for many years, I don't think they're doing it anymore, had a theater conference in August, I think, for a week where people from Alaska submitted plays, and they then honored a playwright and a director. And the year I was there, Edward Albee and Marshall Mason gave the awards, and Terrence McNally and Joey Tillinger received the awards.
Oh, I love
Tillinger?
Tillinger. He was.
Well, everybody loved him.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Well, I was there by accident because on the first night they usually have a full-length play by, in this case, it would have been Terrence McNally, the guy receiving the playwriting award. And for some reason, they didn't have one, so they had to fill this 2-hour evening entertainment. And somebody said, well, Jo Ann Cunningham sings, why don't you get a singer up here?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, so I got a call, and I thought, okay, I can do that. But it was very close. It was like 2 weeks away. So I had to write all the patter and a little story. And I decided, well, I should say first that I have been singing for many years with a tenor named Jim Fredericks. And so we had kind of an act ready. But it had to be kind of specific to this event. So I decided I was going to write a song about these 4 men. And I will tell you, well, I know, it was crazy. And it drove me crazy. But I got information on everybody except Edward Albee. Nobody would talk about him. And so finally I got a phone number for a person who was his house man, who, you know, cooked and cleaned and took care of him. And I called him up and I said, look, this is Jo Ann Cunningham, and I need to find some information on Mr. Albee because I'm writing this song parody about these 4 men who are going to be there. And he said, well, he would get back to me. And I said, look, please don't tell Mr. Albee because it's a surprise for all 4 of them.
Oh, my God.
And I want it to be a surprise. And he said, okay. So a couple days later, the phone rang, and I picked it up and said hello, and this voice said, hello, Jo Ann. This is Edward Albee. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? He said, I understand you're having some problems. And I said, well, no, Mr. Albee, I'm not really having any problems. I just needed some information about you. And he said, well, what would you like to know? And I said, well, what's your favorite musical? And he said, Jumbo.
Our last stop is the New York Hippodrome Theater, where we attend the opening night of Jumbo, starring Paul Whiteman, Jimmy Durante, Donald Novus, and Gloria Grafton.
And I went, Mr. Albee, that was 1936. And he said, well, I was a very young person then. And I said, well, okay. And I thought, great, because I knew songs from there. My Romance is from there. The Most Beautiful Girl in the World is there. And I figured I could make a little medley. And he said, and my favorite song is Little Girl Blue. And I went, oh, God, I've never sung that in my life. But I suspected that I had to sing it. So we talked a little bit more, and he gave me some information. And I said, well, Mr. Albee, thank you so very much for giving me this information. And I hope you will enjoy our show. And he said, I said, I really wanted to do it kind of behind your back. And he went, Jo Ann, nobody does anything behind my back. And I said, well, thank you very much and goodbye. But Little Girl Blue, I have to tell you about this. It turned out to be just beautiful. Every performer knows when they have a moment, when the audience is right with them and everything is going right and you're just nailing it. Well, Dennis Buck was our piano player and he did a beautiful arrangement. And I sat on a stool and I was lit, which I hadn't been at the rehearsal. And there was this wash of blue light over me. And I was sitting there singing this perfectly beautiful song with a really nice arrangement. And it was like wonderful. I was so pleased with it. There is a recording of that somewhere, but I don't have any idea where. But anyway, that's the Mr. Edward Albee story.
Did he ever come up and congratulate you?
Yes, he did. They all did. And they were all talking about what I had written about each one.
Them.
And I thought these very big deals are talking about what little Jo Ann Cunningham wrote about them, which nearly drove me crazy, by the way, doing it. I have great respect for lyric writers.
Oh my God. And especially the fact that you're writing for a writer like...
Yes.
Oh my God. But this is a great story. Great story, because you brought a good thing to Alaska.
Yes. That evening worked out very well. And it was a total accident. So that was nice.
That's a great story.
Thank you. I have many more. For another time.
We want to hear the many more, but there must have been other people besides you up there.
Yes, they hired a bunch of actors. Connie Barron was there. Jack Davidson was there.
Jack Davidson, I love him.
Well, I used to love him, but anyway. And Paula Prentice was there. Uh-huh. Now, here's the story that is the continuation of that event. When I got home, I had an audition for a movie called Marcy X. And I was late to the audition, and it was a horribly rainy day, and I was frantic, and I literally had my raincoat on and was shaking out an umbrella and backed into the room with this umbrella, and I turned around, and the director was Richard Benjamin, and I said, oh, shaking out my umbrella, I just worked with Paula. And he said, okay. So we chatted for a little bit. I still had this soaking wet umbrella in my hand, and I got hired. P.S., 20 years later, or whatever it has been, 2 days ago, I got a residual from Marcy X. After taxes, it was $4.06, and every actor can understand that too.
Well, I'm just going to top that with, I got a residual the other day for 2 pennies.
Oh, gee.
2 pennies. And you say to yourself, and everybody says, well, why did they do that? Well, I asked them at SAG why they did that. And they said, because for taxes.
Oh.
They have to say how much you made.
Oh, gee.
And for 2 pennies, I mean, I get a lot of those little tiny ones, and I see it coming across my email. It says you have a residual, and I think, oh, how exciting! I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And you see this tiny amount. Oh,
2 cents.
That's going into my bank account. Well, as
God.
people say, it's 2 cents towards gum, because you can't buy even gum for 2 cents.
Well, there are no pennies anymore. Even.
They don't do pennies anymore?
No, they're gone. If your change is 3 cents, they give you a nickel. So you make money on it.
I'm glad you said that. I had so many pennies I was holding, and I think I gave them to Peppy. I'm not sure where they are now. Anyway, we certainly have wonderful stories and things about residuals and about Alaska. And I have a big story about Alaska, but I won't go into it because when I was there, I didn't have the exciting people like Edward Albee and Johnny Tillinger and Terrence McNally, all extraordinary men.
For that John Tillinger rhyme, I spent 45 minutes setting up John and Joey, because people called him Joey and his name was John, in order to get a rhyme because I couldn't think of anything that would work with
Do you
Tillinger.
remember this song? Because I'd love to hear it.
Well, you know, I don't. It's somewhere too. It's like that picture I have with me and Jim Fredericks, which is so great, and I wish I could have found it. But it's all somewhere in my apartment. One day I'll find it, or my heirs will find it.
Oh, please. When you think
Anyway.
of what a person has to do at the end of your life, and I keep trying to be nice to people because I saw what it was like when my mother passed.
Yeah.
And, you know, how you have to, you need a team.
Oh, yeah, to take care of everything.
Yeah. I'm so glad I had the opportunity to talk to Jo Ann.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for having me.
Oh.